A Russian man claiming to hold top-level secrets about Russian advanced bombers has just turned up at the US southern border, seeking asylum. The man claims to have been an engineer at a production facility over in the city of Kazan, and he says that he possesses top-secret information about the White Swan Tu-160, which is the most advanced bomber in the Russian arsenal. US border officials, they interviewed the man, and they determined that his story was in fact credible and eventually passed him off to the FBI, who are still in the process of interrogating him right now. However, analysts have pointed out that the fact that the story was even leaked to the public is an indication that perhaps the American government is encouraging other Russians who also hold top-level secrets to also escape to America. And if you thought that was interesting, well then you should click on that button below this video and check out Epic TV, one of the best no-censorship video platforms on the internet. On there you will find awesome programs like American Thought Leaders.
We've now been, for 2 years, trying to obtain the unredacted emails. We're down to the last 50 pages. So that's where all the incriminating evidence is.
Crossroads.
One of the big things happening right now is what's taking place with Russia and China.
Counterpunch.
You will see information you've never seen anywhere else.
Facts Matter. I'm your host, Roman from the Epic Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free. As well as a plethora of great documentaries, wholesome movies that you can enjoy with your whole family,
If I reach one heart, I accomplish something.
cooking programs, and my absolute favorite, programs about traditional art and traditional music, which can honestly uplift your mood and fill you with hope for the future. And the best thing about Epic TV, at least in my opinion, is that there's no corporate backing and there's no allegiance to some anti-American agenda.
How dare you come to this peaceful community and try to scam these people?
What the hell are you talking about?
But rather, it's just good, honest, wholesome content that's based in truth and tradition.
I saw him. It was incredible.
Something that you can actually sit down with your whole family and enjoy, knowing that some ideology is not about to be pushed upon you.
And who's fighting it? We're fighting it here at Epoch Times, and we need to keep bringing you the news.
And so again, if you'd like to check out Epic TV, just click on that button below this video. You and your family will absolutely love it.
%, free. No catch, no shipping costs, and no credit card required. And I'll send this right to your email and you can download it instantly. So click the link on your screen. Right away. Plus,
Image of God in each of these individuals. Those that are attempting
It's here. All right. Where is Mark? Excuse me. Far right. Go all the way to the right. All the way to the right. I need to put that. Ooh, what I need. Right there.
this over. Dak?
The first thing is thank God for beautiful weather here today, right? And thank God for all you people coming out today because we have an existential crisis at our southern border. The state's being invaded, we're under assault, and it affects not just folks here in Texas, but the entire country. What you're going to see today might be disturbing to you. You're going to see some images up on these jumbotrons. And I want to warn you in advance that some of these images are going to bother you. I've seen them in advance. I don't like them. I hate to have to show them, but it's important that we understand the reality. I'm telling you this in advance because if you have young children here, if you're particularly sensitive to violent images, we're going to give you appropriate warnings at the appropriate time. And I would suggest that you turn your children away or walk away from these images. But if you can stomach them, I would suggest you watch them. Because the crisis that has befallen this country is being hidden from the American people. We talk about human trafficking. I don't think we have human trafficking in this country. We have modern day slavery in this country. And we're not going to whitewash it anymore. We're a country that had a dark history of slavery, and we're proud of what happened in the 1860s, and we drove slavery out of the country, but it exists today. In the country today, we have over 70,000 people a year dying of the scourge of fentanyl. 1 every 7 minutes, more people a year than died, more Americans than died in the entire Vietnam War. That's going on in our country today, right now. Our ranchers being overrun, driven off their properties, facing violence and unimaginable situations every single day. Our towns being overrun, our educational institutions being overrun by illegal immigrants because our government has chosen to turn a blind eye and encourage illegal immigrants to come across an open border. But we're here to say one thing to our government, the federal government, and here in Texas, we're not going to take it anymore, are we? There's a fundamental question that we have to ask ourselves when we look at these pictures, when we think of young girls being sold into slavery, when we think of the families ripped apart by fentanyl poisoning, when we think of the law enforcement officers killed, the innocent civilians killed by illegal immigrants, we have to ask ourselves this simple question: how many more? And I would encourage you to do something, and that is take out a piece of paper when you get home, and on that piece of paper, I want you to write something down. I want you to write down, how many more young girls am I willing to see sold into sexual slavery? I want you to write down, how many more families am I willing to see ripped apart by fentanyl deaths? What's the number? 0. 0 is the number. I want you to write down on your piece of paper, how many more ranchers are we going to allow to be driven from their properties? How many more law enforcement officers are we going to allow to be overrun by illegal immigration in our country? 0, that's the number. It's going to take us. Our government's not going to do it for us. They're not going to do it without us. We're going to have to stand in unison. And that's why you're here today at the How Many More rally. God bless you for coming. There's tens of thousands of more people watching online. I appreciate all the folks that were willing to simulcast this and broadcast this rally out there. But this rally is aimed specifically at that building. We have HB 20 being considered here in this legislature, and that will establish a Texas Border Protection Unit. Do we need that? We're asking the governor and we're asking the legislature to declare these cartels to be international terrorist organizations. Are they? We're asking our legislature and our governor to start seizing the assets of these terrorist cartels. Do we need that? We're asking our government to step into the breach. And no, we're not just asking, but we're demanding that. So today is the beginning. It's not simply an event, it's the beginning of a movement. The How Many More movement is going to spread across the country. It's going to unite all the folks that know this is the right thing to do. This is your moment, this is our moment, this is Texas's moment, and this is an American moment. God bless you guys for being here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for today's invocation and welcome the founder of the Watch and Pray Ministries, Gatana Gatana.
Glory to God. We are praying. Before we are praying, I read one verse. If my people who called by my name return back from their wicked way, repent, ask forgiveness, I will forgive them and I will heal their land. Thus says the Lord. We have a covenant from him. As that covenant, we are asking him what we are asking today. Praise and thank God for this wonderful country that we are privileged to live in, where freedom, liberty, and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was won with the blood of patriots who freed God and is granted by constitution that is the envy of the world. Thank him for the grace he has poured out on our nation and upon Texas for almost 250 years. Lord, today we have a great calamity in our country because of an open border that has resulted in murder, rape, human smuggling, sex trafficking, drug smuggling, property destruction, and open transgression of the laws of this state and our country. Lord, how many more little children must be sold into sex slavery? More Americans must die of fentanyl poisoning. Lord, how many more Texans must live in fear on their own property of threats from Mexican cartels? Lord, who will stop the chaos and mine? We know that you abhor the murder, rape, slavery, and lawlessness that is sweeping across our border, state, and country. We know that you are defender of the defenseless and the vulnerable. We know that you are a God of order and not of chaos. Father, we declare your power and authority over our border, and we pray that you would intervene to risk the oppressed and the restore order. You have commanded us to bold and courage and to fear not. May our elect official in Texas be bold and courageous to discharge their duties to protect the lives and liberty of the citizen and fear you and trust you with outcome. Father, we ask for people of Texas to be moved with the spirit of repentance, to seek you and to turn from our wicked way and honor you. I pray this prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Always good to open with a prayer, go into where we should go. It's my pleasure, it's my honor to introduce somebody that you all know. To millions of music lovers, Ted Nugent has carved a permanent place in rock and roll history, selling more than 40 million albums, performing more than 6,800 high-octane concerts, and continuing to set attendance records at venues all over the world. To further millions, Ted's the nation's most outspoken proponent of our First and Second Amendment rights, conducting thousands of pro-gun, pro-freedom, pro-America interviews in major media worldwide. A recipient of myriad commendations from state police, sheriff departments, FBI, and police agencies, Nugent's been lauded for his work with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Hunt for a Cure, and his own nonprofit Camp for Kids. Ted Nugent was named Detroit's greatest guitar player of all time by readers of M Live. His Spirit of the World Wild TV show is the most watched series on the Pursuit channel. It is an honor and a privilege to introduce the one, the only, Ted Nugent.
Well, look at you. It's real Texas. God, I love real Texas. Now, they wanted me to hear today to raise some hell because I am a we the people experimenter in self-government. I am what the founding fathers wanted all Americans to be. Critical thinking, suspicious of all authority, and to demand constitutional accountability from my elected employees. How am I doing? And they wanted a fire-breathing Star-Spangled Banner today. You want the national anthem, don't you? God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of individual happiness, law and order, Texas. God bless you all for being here today. I sometimes offer it in the form of a question. It's not a question. There is no America without secure borders. There is no Texas without secure borders. What the hell are you doing up there? How embarrassing. I'm so proud to be here with you. I love you people. Can you feel the love? But how embarrassing. It's the 29th day of April 2023. The vaccine, it's a fake shot. It's not a vaccine. Bring your needle up here. I'll shove it up your ass. It's not a vaccine. It's an experimental shot to kill Americans. It's not a border. It's open wide so the communist Chinese can kill us with their fentanyl chemical warfare. Bring that prick up here. Somebody cuff that prick. Look at, all my buddies are going to go there to beat the shit out of him. All right. So I'm just a guitar player, but I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, a hunter, a fisherman, a guitar player, a hellraiser, a we the people demanding constitutional accountability from my elected employees. How dare the state of Texas, that I moved here from the hell zone of Detroit for freedom, how dare the state of Texas refuse to secure my border? I love you people. I even love the dirtbag because it's important to know that I cause much pain and suffering in the dirtbag world because that's the supporter of open borders. That's what that freak was. That's a Joe Biden fan. That's what that freak is. I leave you with this. If you are here today and think you matter because you're here today, move to New Jersey. Because if you don't go forward and raise increased maximum hell with your elected employees and don't stop demanding a secure border, if you don't do that, Nancy Pelosi considers you an ally. That's gotta hurt. So Texas, let's be real, Texas. You know, when I started rocking and rolling here in 1967, remember the Alamo, remember the Alamo, remember the Alamo. Well, here's a good idea. Remember the damn Alamo. It's not a catchphrase. It's not a slogan. We're supposed to remember. I had a trespasser. I had an invader on my ranch one day. He'll never come back. He's incapable. I don't process invaders. I repel invaders. So let's get this legislation where finally, Texas can be the shining light of freedom in the United States of America. If you're coming illegally across the border, turn the hell around. Go back. We have a front door. My grandparents came through the front door. I am the son of an immigrant, a legal immigrant. I support legal immigration. I support legal banking as long as you withdraw from your account. If you withdraw from my account, you need to be in a cage on the other side of the border. So truth, logic, and common sense is alive and well here. Let's hear it for the people who have really invested in this rally today. They are putting their money where their mouth is. And thank you for being here, but you have a job. You all have a job. I've saluted thousands of flag-draped coffins in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've gone to the funerals of heroes that gave their life for the Constitution on behalf of those flag-draped coffins, could we please pay them back for their sacrifice by securing our borders, and we are once again a nation. That's the battle cry. So God bless you. You people are just like me. Isn't that amazing? How cool is that? How cool must you be? So you're willing to raise hell. You actually participate in this sacred experiment in self-government. It's not a spectator sport. Go forth, my friends. Go forward. Starting this afternoon, take the spirit and the piss and the vinegar and the defiance and the critical thinking and the demand of freedom and security. Go forth to your friends and your neighbors at the barbecue, at the bowling alley, at the golf course, at the deer camp. Go forth at the workplace and school and church and demand that your fellow Americans actually act like Americans. We're surrounded by numbnuts. We have the highest percentage of numbnuts in America in the history of America. Fix the numbnuts. We need one vote per legal, alive American citizen. We need one vote per living American citizen. And if we got one vote per living American citizen, Donald Trump would be in the White House and this mess would be fixed. So somebody told me not to get political today. That's impossible. I don't think so. I had a bumper crop of middle fingers this year. If you're short, I can have them airlifted into your dining room. America is about defiance. You need to let Greg Abbott and your senators and your congressmen and your mayors and your chief of police and your state trooper commander and your sheriff know, secure my border. You're going to hear some wisdom from great speakers who, like you and me, they truly give a damn. I give a damn about this sacred experiment in self-government, and I'm willing to put my balls on the line for it, and I have for the last 60 years. And if some punk wants to take a sledgehammer and hit my balls, go for it. What a great analogy that is. I'm here for education, inspiration, and entertainment. Say thank you, Uncle Ted. And how about that guitar tone? Was that awesome? Who do I think I am? I'm an American. I want my nation secured. Thank you. Drive safely.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens for a video message from the President and CEO of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, Reverend Samuel Rodriguez.
To come, and those that are currently here in America. What does that mean? We must bring an end to all illegal immigration in the name of Jesus. We must protect our southern and northern borders. We must demand that our current administration put an end to catch and release. Please recognize the fact that these individuals that are coming over are not political instruments in some sort of long-term strategic political game. They are individuals created in the image of God who must come here legally. That's the truth. I am believing by faith that we will see followers of Jesus, not just in the state of Texas, but across America, finally stand up and say enough is enough. Yes, we must protect the sovereignty of our nation. Yes, we want people to respect the rule of law, but we likewise love these individuals. We love them, and we want these individuals coming over legally through the right door, the right process. We don't want them to be exploited, manipulated, humiliated, experience sexual trafficking, human trafficking, raped, molested. Enough is enough. Morally reprehensible, unacceptable. How many more? I believe we can do this, It's God over man and man over government. That's American exceptionalism. At the end of the day, I believe that God is not done with America and America is not done with God. And if we get this immigration thing right, I believe we're going to see something beautiful in our nation.
Voice of God. Voice of God. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Mark Meckler.
So I warned you in advance that we're going to have some graphic images here today, that you're going to hear some things and see some things that might upset you. The next speaker is going to come up. I just want an advance warning. I want everybody to know if you have children here, I recommend you walk away, turn them away from the screen. If you have a sensitive stomach, if this kind of stuff is stuff that you can't handle, I just want fair warning to everybody. Now is your moment to turn away. But I think this is important. I think it's important that you see it, and I think it's important that America sees it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the Texas Border Volunteers, Dr. Mike Vickers.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you coming today. You know, I'm a veterinarian, and this coming August, I'll have practiced in South Texas in about 16 counties along the border from Eagle Pass to Brownsville and inland. Over the years, experienced this invasion of our country, starting in about 1982. And would run into situations, people waiting at the gate when I'm leaving a ranch. In a couple of situations, they were going to try to take my truck away from me. A couple of other veterinarian friends of mine actually had their trucks taken away. And then we started seeing the property damage. The group started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more people, and then we started finding the dead bodies. And you're going to see a lot of pictures here of bodies that were found just in Brooks County alone, on my property and just a couple of my neighbors. And it's escalated to the point that it is now, where it's just a whole-scale invasion of our property, dead people showing up, sick people showing up. Louder? Okay. And 16 years ago, a group of us got together and decided we got to do something. You know, this is just overwhelming. All this property damage, the dead people, all the groups coming through. And we started a group called the Texas Border Volunteers. And we, right off the bat, we aligned ourselves with Border Patrol, the Texas Rangers, DPS, and local law enforcement. And we've been well received, and we've had these operations out on all these trails that we identified back in 2005. Over 600 smuggling trails between Laredo and the coast. And this is what we do. And this is something.
The Mexican cartels today, ladies and gentlemen, represent the most significant national security and public safety threat to the American people. The problem is that you have not been told, and that's not a perception, that's not a feeling. The data proves it. We have lost over 100,000 Americans to fentanyl and methamphetamine in just 2022, 106,000 to date. In 2021, 110,000. We have never been where we are. And what you are really witnessing in Mexico and what you are really witnessing at this border is the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11. I want to share with you a story that brought me here today with you and why we have to designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations today. In May of 2012, as a captain in the Intel Center, we were working one of the most clandestine operations to share critical intelligence with the most elite forces in Mexico because the Los Zetas cartel, one of the most hyper-violent cartels, had taken between 30 and 40 migrants in a stash house in Piedras Negras hostage. Now, you may think they must have wanted a ransom. They did not. What they were going to start doing in a matter of hours were taking anywhere from 5 to 10 people at a time from that stash house into what they called a kill house, where they were going to kill them, decapitate them, take off their arms and their legs. And we worked throughout the day with some of the finest people in the federal government and intelligence agencies to share that information. Unfortunately, we would fail. And the source would call us and tell us that you're too late. They've already started killing them. And I watched as some of the most senior agents in our agency and analysts crumbled before me. And as I went home that night, I remember thinking to myself, my God, how do I bring these men and women back and lead them through this? The next morning before I woke up, my phone rang, and it was one of my senior agents, and he said, Captain, they're going to do it again. Do we have permission to start the process? I said, absolutely. Do anything we can do it to save the lives of these people. That day, we rescued 52 people from being killed. And I appreciate that. But 2 days later, we were notified that the Mexican government recovered 49 bodies, headless, no arms and no legs, just south of Monterrey, that had been killed by the Zetas. I would work a few more years to be here with you today. This changed my life, and this is one of the only of many operations I can talk about. In Mexico, what has happened is that these cartels went from organized crime in 2006 into an insurgency. And this is when the Calderon administration began using their military to go after them. And what we found is that the cartels were truly fighting back against these cartels. 40-millimeter grenades, light anti-tank weapons, RPGs, first, second generation armored vehicles. We were stunned at what we were seeing. By 2010, this is when the hyper-violent Zetas began the mass killing of migrants and Mexican citizens. You may remember the 72 migrants of San Fernando. We worked that. The 300 men and women and children of Allende, just south of our border, killed, decapitated, cut into pieces, and then guisoed, because the cartels have a saying that you can't count a body that doesn't exist. And from 2010 to 2015, they were in the realm of terrorism. And what the Zetas brought to the cartels that you were not told by the intelligence agencies is discipline and tradecraft. From 2015 to 2023, where we are today, they are truly a parallel government in Mexico. And it's exactly why we have to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. Real quick, solutions, because I don't have much time. First, we've got to hit their labs, and we've got to hit them hard. Now, we have no time to waste. They are producing too much. The other part of this that you are not told from U.S. intelligence agencies is that they have gone from regular fentanyl to parafentanyl, which, by the way, most state troopers are seizing in this state parafentanyl, and then also serafentanyl. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with serafentanyl, that's what they use in Africa to put down rhinos and rhinoceroses. And now what are they doing? Overlaying it and lacing it with xylazine. This is why the weaponization of fentanyl and what you are being told about the weaponization has happened as the cartels get chemical precursors in, and then from there have changed the analogs that are killing our country and killing so many Americans. It is why we've never been here. The problem is you weren't told. Second solution is we've got to fix the FBI's failed, and I mean absolute failed, uniform crime reporting system and national incident-based reporting system. If as a nation we don't get the little things right, we will never get the big things right. And you as the citizens of this country need to know the impact of transnational crime on our citizenry. Right now, amongst 18,000 agencies after a 60-year drug war, we can't tell you how much narcotics or transnational crime are impacting us. And this is exactly why the FBI and so many federal agencies are out of focus to what is impacting you and your families. The last part of this is the designation. You get three things with it. This is what you're not told. First,
You always hear, let's go after their money. It sounds sexy. But under the Fourth Amendment and a DOJ model, it moves very slow. That's the way we want it. But with the terrorism designation outside the confines of our nation, we can seize their assets real time and use their money against them. Second, we limit their mobility globally. And third and finally, if you're a terrorist in this country, we have tens of thousands of them among us. This is how they are able to work with our Tier 1 gangs and US-based street gangs. This is how we fix this shit. I want to tell you, as Newsmax's border correspondent, I travel this country, and I have witnessed and interviewed countless angel moms and dads who feel that they have absolutely been abandoned by our government. Absolutely abandoned. It doesn't stop there. Our ranchers, like Doc Vickers, who you just heard from, you want to talk about the forgotten Americans of this country. Between our angel moms and dads and our ranchers, they have been abandoned by our government. I want you to know this as I leave you here. I'm going to leave you with just a quick thing, and that is this. What these cartels have done to so many innocent Americans is absolutely unacceptable, and it is absolutely fixable from someone who has built programs to go after them and helped crush the Los Zetas cartel. This is fixable, and we will do it. These cartels will feast for 2 more years, and then we will build a unified command of global operators and partnerships, and we're coming for them for what they have done to so many innocent Americans. To the mothers and fathers, I want you to hear me. You are not forgotten. There are many of us out here fighting like hell to illuminate what they are doing so that we can truly eliminate it. And to the cartels, the best of the best are coming for you. The best of the best. God bless you all. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome retired Supervisory Special Agent for ICE, Victor Avila.
It's truly an honor to be here with you guys today and a bunch of patriots. It always fills my heart. Thank you for coming to this such important cause. I'm a retired special agent with Homeland Security Investigations under ICE, and I've worked the cartels, I've worked the human smuggling, the child trafficking. As a subject matter expert in human trafficking, I rescued the women and children from these horrific conditions. And like Jason said, the cartels are an imminent threat to our not just our state of Texas, but to our country. But something that always kind of was on the side to me is to kind of acknowledge that not only have I worked this on both sides of the border, but I also had a hard time accepting that I've been a victim at the hands of the cartels myself.
MC switch office. This is Victor Avila from ICE. We are shot. We are shot. We are on the highway to Querétaro, Mexico. We've been shot and attacked on the highway. I am an ICE special agent. What is your name, you said, sir? Victor Avila. Please call Jerry Miles. I don't have another phone.
Where did you look at?
Please call Jerry Miles. We've been shot on the highway.
Highway? What is the highway, sir? To where?
Mexico, Querétaro. They know where I'm at.
Okay. Try to remain online, please.
That's the call that I made on February 15, 2011 from our Suburban in Mexico when Agent Zapata and I were ambushed by Los Zetas cartel. And tragically, Agent Zapata was killed in the line of duty in Mexico with Fast and Furious weapons. I was shot 3 times, and I stand here before the grace of God to continue to fight for and defend our homeland. As a victim of a crime, why we're here. And we're here and I'm here today to be a voice for all those victims that this open border policy has brought. U.S. citizens killed at the hands of illegal aliens all over our country. Little girls being raped by the cartels, by corrupt Mexican officials, by military members. Moms, angel moms, families that have lost their loved ones to fentanyl poisonings. These are the victims that their voices have been lost. Remember them when you leave here today. They are the ones that we fight for. They're the ones that have to explain why an illegal alien is trying to rape their 13-year-old daughter in their own bedroom in Michigan. Why there right now is a big international theft ring of illegal aliens from South America in New York and Connecticut. Just yesterday in Cleveland, Texas, right outside of Houston, there was a guy that executed 6 people, including an 8-year-old little boy, a Mexican national. It's a cartel hit. It happened a couple of months ago in Fresno, California, where they executed a whole family, including an 8-month-old baby and the 16-year-old mother. I'm tired of seeing the victims. And as a matter of fact, it's not just the U.S. citizens themselves, because Sheriff Coe is here present, and he'll tell you that in his own county, in Kennedy County, just last week, and many, many other weeks, they continue to get rollovers of smugglers, smuggling illegal aliens, crashing and killing illegal aliens themselves. So you want to protect the children? You want to protect lives? You secure this border, and it starts here behind me. A lot of people always ask, what do I do, Victor? What do I do? How can I help? Well, you guys are here. You're the exception because you're awake. But you must communicate this to your community members, and it starts at the local level. Sometimes people think, well, do I have to call the White House? I don't know how to do that. No. You get to find out who your city representative is. You get to find out who your county commissioner is. Go to a meeting. Go to a school board meeting and be impactful as to what they say and do that's going to matter in your own neighborhood. Bring the change from the local community and the local government back to this building, because that's what they're there for, right? I mean, what a concept that your elected official is supposed to represent you. Well, let's take it back to basics. I will, by the way, in CD 23. We are at a time where the actions have superseded words. We must act now. We must now become, yes, designation of foreign terrorist organizations, hold Mexico accountable. You know, I was talking to the organizers backstage, and they said, Victor, please mention the cartels, how they own a lot of the illegal aliens now, how human smuggling has become human trafficking, where the fee that they pay the cartels to come into the country is now owed to the cartels in Minneapolis, in Chicago, in North Carolina, everywhere in this country, that they'll never pay that debt back. And the cartels are owned. They own these people. And a lot of them are not criminals. A lot of them, they're good people that come over, but 23-year-olds, guess what they're gonna do to have to pay that debt back? They will do whatever the cartels tell them to do and sell the fentanyl, get into the schools and sell the meth. I go around the country talking to a lot of sheriff's groups and police chiefs, and they have seen their communities turned around by the amount of crime associated with the meth, that's associated with the cartels, that's associated with the open border. It's all linked. And I want to thank you. Thank you for making the trip to come out here, because you are the 10%ers. You're the ones that see something and say something and act on it. And it's get your communities involved. Yes, a lot of it has to do legislatively, and these bills, we have to pass them. That's one way to fight back. We must get elected officials in there that will be the voice for the community, not just in this building, but in the one in the halls of Congress in DC. It can change. We can get real people in there that can make a real difference. But you are the patriots. Remember, they work for us. We don't work for them. Thank you so much for your attention. I always thank you for all your support. God bless the state of Texas, and God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of El Conservador, George Rodriguez.
Hi, folks. This is a great crowd. Thank you all for coming. Let me tell you, it's fun to be here in the center of this insanity called Austin. Keeping them weird. I mean, it's just amazing to me what comes out of this place and the things that you see sometimes around here. My friends, let me begin by just telling you that I am an American of Mexican descent. I am an American first. We have Americans of Irish, German, Italian descent. I happen to be an American of Mexican descent. And I want my country to have borders, to have control of immigration. When I worked in the Reagan administration, my friends, I fought against the amnesty in 1986 because I said that when you reward bad behavior, what do you get? Exactly. When you excuse it and say it's because of climate change that they are coming,
And most important of all, we need to stigmatize those social, political, and media influences that normalize and glamorize drug use and trafficking. Number 3, relocate. What I'm talking about here is individual responsibility. At its core, the drug problem in the United States is not caused by poverty, racism, social dysphoria, or any other supposed root cause. It's about individuals not taking control of their lives, leading safe, healthy, lawful lifestyles. Quite simply, individual character and lawful behavior matter. They matter for self, and cumulatively, they matter for society. If not, then the country's resources will be exhausted in efforts to save the citizens from themselves, whether or not narcotics are legalized. Number 4, recommit. Law enforcement does not have the resources remotely proportionate to this threat. We must substantially increase funding and resources to law enforcement at every level, local, state, federal, and absolutely at the Mexican border where we know the threat emanates from. We know with 300 Americans dying every single day from drug poisonings that drug dealing is not a nonviolent crime. In fact, it's been rightfully called the most murderous criminal activity in the history of America. We proved that law enforcement works against LSD in the 60s, heroin in the 70s, cocaine in the 80s, crack in the 90s, and meth labs in the 2000s. All of those reductions were not complete, but they were greatly achieved through the fair yet vigorous application of the rule of law. Back in the early 1980s, when cocaine first started pouring out of Colombia, President Ronald Reagan picked up the phone and he called his counterpart in Bogota and said that you guys either need to start doing something yourselves to stem the production and export of cocaine, or you might as well stop sending us any of your coffee and cut flowers and oil. And you know what? Colombia stepped up and it became one of our greatest allies ever since in this global struggle. We need that same tough love right now with Mexico. And maybe more importantly, given the precursor chemical flows and the money laundering activities with China. And lastly, this ought to be an easy one. We need to declare every single one of the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. That's a simple declaration by the Secretary of State pursuant to Title 8 USC Section 1189. That's 8 USC 1189. He needs to be shamed in doing so now. Folks, this is our society and one worth fighting for. And fight we must, not just with caring and compassion, but also with an aggressive and wide-ranging drug law enforcement response that upholds the rule of law and what is right against a constant onslaught of predators who only look to get rich off the backs of addiction. To not target, arrest, and imprison those who prey upon our fellow citizens, sometimes with unimaginable violence and barbarity, is not just cowardly, it's immoral. So when you leave here and begin to engage in this existential fight, remember always the words of Teddy Roosevelt, who said that it's not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man or woman who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get in the arena. Thank you and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens for a video message from the co-president of Lost Voices of Fentanyl, Virginia Krieger.
Good morning. I plan on being with you today, and I'm sorry that I was unable to attend. My name's Virginia Krieger. I lost my only daughter, Tiffany, in 2015 to a counterfeit pill that was pure fentanyl. Tiffany was a beautiful, bright young woman who had a great future in front of her. She injured her back and she did what every other person would do in that situation. She went to the emergency room. She went to see her physician. She got the referral to the neurosurgeon. And in between that time, while she was waiting for that neurosurgeon appointment, an acquaintance whom she trusted offered her what looked to be a Percocet to help with her pain. It wasn't a Percocet. It was fentanyl, and it killed her. After Tiffany's loss, my youngest son fell into such great despair that he began abusing methamphetamines, and he's almost died 3 times from fentanyl and meth. My youngest son is currently fighting for his life in a hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My grandchildren are growing up without their mother. My son may not survive his injuries. And all of this came from one pill, which went through my family like a freight train and destroyed it forever. Since 2013, more than 337,000 lives have been lost to illicit fentanyl poisonings. And it's important to distinguish these are poisonings. Anytime a person hides or disguises a harmful substance as something else, or puts it into anything for another person to consume without their knowledge or intent, that's a classic poisoning. And up to now, we have not been addressing this as a criminal murder crisis. We have been addressing this as only a health crisis and related to substance use disorder. And that's the big lie. We are losing 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, infants, senior citizens of every race, of every financial class, of every background. This problem is not limited only to people who suffer from substance use disorder. It is now expanded to include the general public. In the United States, more than 158 million people last year admitted on a drug survey to using an off-market pill or trying a drug at least once within that year. So a problem that would have been limited to the traditional substance use disorder community has now expanded to include the general public. Yet the public remains largely unaware and uneducated as to what this fentanyl crisis really is. Illicit fentanyl is made in China. It is a synthetic opiate, and in fact is modified to make it even stronger than the prescription grade fentanyl, which we make here in the United States. It's not the same as a prescription product. In fact, it's far more dangerous. In 2021 alone, we lost 71,248 lives to illicit fentanyl poisonings. These people came from every walk of life. They were every race, every financial background. So the greatest risk to our children today comes every Friday night when they might leave the house and be influenced by their friends to try or use an off-market pill or to try a drug. They have found it in pills which are mimicking Xanax, Adderall, Vicodin, Percocet, oxycodone, OxyContin. They found it in meth. They found it in heroin. They found it in cocaine, even ecstasy, fake Adderalls, which are commonly used on college campuses, which college students use to stay awake for exams, are even being mimicked. So the greatest danger to our society today, the greatest national security threat we face, is coming directly from China in collaboration with Mexico's drug cartels. Our organization, Lost Voices of Fentanyl, is comprised of more than 26,000 bereaved family members nationwide who have lost their loved ones to illicit fentanyl poisonings. We're demanding action by our government. We want public safety warnings to be put out. We want public education so that people are aware of the dangers that their loved ones face with illicit fentanyl. We're asking for fentanyl to be named a weapon of mass destruction so that we can free up federal resources to go after the purveyors of these deadly products. But we need help. We can't do it alone. More than 71,248 Americans died in 2021 alone from illicit fentanyl poisonings. That's more lives lost than the 20-year Vietnam War. And we aren't even on the battlefield. We're not fighting to save our kids, and we need to. You know, if anyone had told me that this would be what I'm doing now, I would never have believed it. 2 of my 3 children have been impacted by this. And my family will never come back. But I can fight to make sure that your families are safe. And that's our fight. We pray every day that we will get the support we need, that we will have others join us in this fight to protect our children. During COVID, within 30 days, everyone knew 3 things: social distance, wear a mask, wash your hands. We are 10 years into this crisis, and most of the public doesn't even know that these fake pills exist, that this isn't prescription fentanyl, and they don't know that they're at risk. And that has to change. The number to measure the size and scope of this crisis is not going to be found in just the number of deaths. The true measurement of this crisis will be found in how many injuries there are every day in survivors combined with the deaths. But to date, that data is not even being collected. So the federal government has claimed that they're responding to this, yet they haven't even assessed the size and scope of the problem. So how could they possibly respond to a problem they haven't assessed? We're asking them to start tracking the number of fentanyl-related injuries every day. We're asking them to address China and the cartels, and for us to get on the battlefield to save our children's lives. I want to thank everyone who came today to show your support, to stand up and fight for our children. Because if we don't do it, nobody will. So thank you so much for coming. And please visit us, our Facebook discussion group, Lost Voices of Fentanyl. And you can also find our website at lvof.org. This is the fight of our lives. And we need everybody on the battlefield. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and CEO of Veterans for Child Rescue and former Navy SEAL who served on the elite SEAL Team 1, Craig Sawyer.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege to be here in Texas. I'm a son of Texas. My family are all from Houston. My 4 great-grandpappies, second governor of Texas. I just went and saw his picture up at the top of the rotunda. It is good to be here among fellow Texans and patriots in these crazy, crazy times. Look, whenever I left our family homestead of Houston, where all my family remained, I went off to fight against the worst evil I could identify in the Marine Corps and the SEAL teams. And that was counterterrorism. The operations were counterterrorism at the time, and international terrorism was the worst evil I could identify. And fast forward, went all the way to the top of counterterrorism at SEAL Team 6 and several other agencies in our national security since then, and 60 countries around the world. And what did I realize? I realized that what's going on here is worse than I thought I was defending against in all those other countries. So now I'm fighting here for our children, for our country, and child trafficking is what I learned about. As a friend of mine from an intelligence agency let me know that the area that we grew up just north of Houston was the hottest epicenter of child sex trafficking in the country. And I thought, my God, our culture is so counter to that. How can it be? I couldn't reconcile it in my mind or in my spirit. I got ticked off, I got heartbroken, and then I decided to take action. So I founded Veterans for Child Rescue, a nonprofit organization, to expose this mess. We spent 3 years filming a documentary, Contra Land. I encourage you to watch it. It's very powerful revelation of what's going on inside the United States. We run joint operations with federal and local law enforcement arresting child predators. We've got a 25 arrests so far with a 100% conviction rate. We've got 13 more warrants ready to serve and more operations and investigations underway. We've done stuff from coast to coast. Thank you. We've got some of our law enforcement allies from Southern Texas, from Laredo, that we've operated with here, came all the way up today to support us. God bless you guys. We appreciate and respect you. And folks, is anybody familiar with Tom Clancy's books and movies? Well, the Jack Ryan character was named after Jack Farmer, the real life of Jack Farmer. Jack is actually here today. I'm not going to point him out and embarrass him, but he is here. He is a friend and a brother. I'm honored to know him, and he's on our board at Vets for Child Rescue. So We got quality patriots here today. War has evolved. I'm telling you, as a war fighter, it has evolved. We're not looking for tanks, planes, and guns anymore. If we are, we're decades behind. This is 5th generation warfare evolving into 6th generation warfare, which gets into the AI, but just realize what it is. It's silent, it's sophisticated, and it's all done through deceit. It's all done through deceit. They're lying to us about so many things. I'm telling you, I've served inside of 6 different agencies over the years. I can tell you, I'm a national security whistleblower. There was a guy, a high-ranking SES level executive that got fired for gross mismanagement and retaliation that I blew the whistle on. And I lost my retirement out of it, but it was a righteous call. So this war is a silent war, folks, and what they can't withstand is exposure. And that's why I celebrate this how many more event. Exposure, that's what evil and the silent ones cannot withstand when we call them out and expose them. So look, General Flynn and a friend of mine, Boone Cutler, wrote a book, The Citizen's Guide to 5th Generation Warfare. They break it down for you. Everybody needs to know that information. You need to know it. Americans don't know who the enemy is, and that's by design. You don't even know that you're under full-scale attack. There is a war being made. It's just that you're not fighting back because you're not being informed on it in good faith. I'm not making this up. You can go research it and verify everything. I'm telling you, everything that you're seeing, all these other guests talk about, are symptoms of this war being made upon the United States right now. Why would people do this? At its core, it is spiritual. These people subscribe to a very dark and hostile agenda. You can learn more about what they do. Just type into any search engine, 45 communist goals. They intend to overthrow our nation without firing a single shot. Yuri Bezmenov's lectures on ideological subversion, Russian KGB defector, warned us very, very powerfully. We didn't listen. Read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, their playbook. Listen to Klaus Schwab and what he admits that they're after with Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, and all these things are a nightmare for us. We should be irate right now about what they're doing to us. But what they do to children, this global criminal cabal, is the most heinous and sinister and evil thing. It would turn your stomach, and once that's adequately exposed, there can be a tipping point with our culture where we drive this evil out of our nation. We have to do it. In the comfort, Americans, in the beauty, in our slumber comes the threat. They're not coming across a battlefield. They're coming behind our backs. We have to expose it. We have to speak truth. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's not just a fairy tale in an ancient book, folks. That's what we're facing. And the sooner we realize it and get at it, the better. Pray with me. God Almighty, we give you thanks for so many blessings that you've brought upon us. We genuinely do. We are blessed and we know it. But we have been overtaken by those with wicked hearts, and they are doing incalculable harm. And Father, we want you to know it is not us. We denounce this evil, wickedness, and this harm. We reject it. We rebuke it in your name. And Father, we pray that you reveal to us what we cannot see, and that you spiritually incinerate this veil of secrecy that this cabal operates under with this child trafficking, this heinous, wicked crime. At industrial scale, Father, that you would cause us to see and guide us to revoke it and drive this evil from our nation. Father, let us return to a godly nation of divine principles that bring about that which builds up, which encourages, which heals and brings life, Father, and carries out your divine ways. And we ask these things, Father, in your beloved and precious and powerful name, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Amen. Thank you. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome visiting fellow of the Border Security and Immigration Center at the Heritage Foundation, Mark Morgan.
And also, I want to be clear, I'm also standing in front of you today as the former acting commissioner of Customs and Border Patrol under President Donald J. Trump. Look, if you've been paying attention for the past 2 years or the past few hours, you know it's undisputed that what's happening at our southwest border is a self-inflicted, unmitigated catastrophe of a crisis that's unmatched in parallel in a modern history. But in today's political and ideologic-driven environment, the truth, reality, facts, and data, it's all pushed away. It's been hijacked by false narratives and blatant lies. The Biden administration, they've intentionally abdicated their constitutional responsibility to protect our nation's borders. And as such, they've jeopardized every aspect of our nation's safety and national security. They have intentionally fueled and driven an unprecedented conversion of this misguided ideology and quest for political power that has devolved and eroded every aspect of our nation's safety and national security. They ignored explicit warnings. I was there. I provided his transition team warnings that if they did what they say they were going to do, that they would create the unmitigated crisis that we have today. They ignored and dismissed Border Patrol experts and leaders. They dismantled every effective tool and authority and policy that we had in place under President Trump that led to the most secure border in our lifetime. They intentionally, from day one, they dismantled every effective tool and authority and a policy. We worked hard to gain the safe third country agreements with all 3 northern triangle countries. Gone. We used leverage through strength to force Mexico to join this crisis, to increase their own country's interior enforcement, to secure their own country's southern border. Gone. We worked hard to develop policies like the Remain in Mexico program that single-handedly served as a deterrent to those wanting to come here and in violation of our laws, and we were able to secure our borders. That policy gone. ICE's ability to increase their interior enforcement to eradicate criminal illegal aliens walking our streets, gone. And of course, we all know the wall is gone. And we know that the results were predictable. And we know that the message to the entire world was sent loud and clear and acted as a light and a beacon that the United States borders were wide open. And today I stand before you, you don't have to be a border security expert. You get it, that's why you're here. That when you dismantle and destroy a strategy, a policy, an approach that's very simplistic in its design and strategy, that you provide deterrence to those that are thinking about violating the laws of our nation and applying consequences to those that do. When you destroy that and dismantle that, you're going to devolve our border into the wild, wild west that it is. Just like many cities are experiencing that right now that are driven by the same ideology and political driven policies. And in the last 25 months, I know some speakers have talked about it, but let's think about the numbers. In 25 months, 6 million total encounters and more than 1.7 million total gotaways. That's insanity. At this pace, in 48 months of this administration, this country is looking at encountering 14 million total encounters and gotaways. 14 million. Let that sink in. That, to put that in perspective even more, that would make it equivalent to the 5th largest populated state in this country, just under the state of New York. That, ladies and gentlemen, is insanity. Drugs are pouring across the country because of it, killing Americans every single day. And among the 1.7 million total gotaways, we know that there are some bad people. There are murderers, criminals. There are pedophiles, aggravated felons, and gang members, taking and claiming more American victims every single day. We know among the 1.7 million are potential national security threats, illegal aliens on the FBI's terror screening database. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing before you today. This is not hyperbole to say that we could have the next sleeper terrorist cell somewhere in the United States planning the next terrorist attack, and we would have no idea because this administration has abandoned their constitutional responsibilities. And let's talk about Lion Secretary Mayorkas, right? Yeah. Look, if I wasn't a God-fearing law enforcement, if I see him, well, I won't tell you what I think about doing to him sometimes. But look, seriously, so one of his many lies is that he, wait for it, he's developed a safe, orderly, and humane illegal immigration process, right? First of all, that statement's just an oxymoron. And second of all, it's just stupid, and it's a deadly lie. Let me tell you the truth. In 25 months, CBP has recovered over 1,500 dead migrants at our borders. We know that up to 30% of young women and children that take the dangerous trek, that turn their lives over to the cartels, are assaulted or raped. 30%, we know that. And we know that their exploitation does not stop on the journey. That once this administration releases them into our United States, many of them, untold numbers, now become victims of untold trafficking. No, Secretary Mayorkas, that is not humane. That's actually the antithesis of humane. Yes, I agree, he should be impeached, and I've been calling for his impeachment for a long time. There is no other secretary that has come in and has looked at the law as a mere advisory opinion, right? I mean, he's abdicated his oath, he's overthrown his responsibilities, and he is absolutely responsible for what's going on our border. He's not simply carrying the water of the president, that's part of it, but he's also enacting policies that's directly leading to our borders being open. Under the Biden administration, 325,000 unaccompanied minors have been enticed to come to the border. Why? Because they've been promised the ultimate thing that they want is unfettered access to the United States. And we heard just a few weeks ago under congressional testimony, staff from his own administration have said that they have lost 85,000 unaccompanied minors. They have no idea where they are, but I know where they're at. They're at slaughterhouses and they're being sold for sex every single day in this country. That is a fact. And how is this okay? How do we allow the mainstream media to continue to stick their heads in the sand and cover for this administration? It's unconscionable. No, Secretary Mayorkas, our borders are not secured. No, Secretary Mayorkas, we do not have operational control. The cartels actually control large areas of our southern border, and every single day, their ability to expand their operational control and exploit the gaps are increasing. Enough is enough. How many more Americans have to die? How many more migrants have to die? And the time of talk is over. We've got to force politicians to stop playing this deadly political game. And I'm talking to both Republicans and Democrats. Our border security is not a blue or red issue, it's a red, white, and blue issue. And it's time that we force Congress to pass meaningful legislation that will enforce and codify a strategy of deterrence, consequences, integrity back in our system. And our nation's approach to how we go after the enemy, and I want to make sure I'm very clear who the enemy is. It's the Mexican cartels. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot call them criminal organizations. They are the enemy, and we need to go after them like that. Our traditional criminal prosecutive approach that we have tried for decades has been a failure. We have to fundamentally shift how we go after them. We need to go after the cartels with the same whole of government approach, level of commitment, resources, and tenacity, just like we do terrorist organizations. And look, I want to be clear also, it would be best to have the cooperation of the government of Mexico, but I want to be very clear. Their agreement is not necessary. For us to return and regain our borders, to protect our nation's sovereignty and our safety and national security, we don't need an agreement with the government who has fueled and has the inability to protect and safeguard their own nation. And I'll end with this. Unfortunately, because the Biden administration has abdicated their constitutional responsibilities, they've abdicated and they've totally abandoned the rule of law. The truth, in fact, is the states, like the great state of Texas, they are now our nation's last line of defense. So we have to drive our state's politicians to continue to have discussions, to continue to look for new ways and new opportunities and innovative ways to fill the gap left by this administration and Secretary Mayorkas. Our country depends on it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PragerU personality CJ Pearson.
God bless America and God bless the great state of Texas. It's great to be here today. Guys, as someone who lives in Los Angeles, California, it's always great when I get to come back to the United States. So thank you so much for having me here today. God's country, baby, God's country. My name is CJ Pearson, and I'm from PragerU, a nonprofit organization committed to exposing what is happening on our southern border when the mainstream media refuses to. Because it's a shame that they have refused to tell the story of what's happening at our border. It's a shame. I traveled to the border on last week, and I heard stories of atrocities that have no place in the United States of America. I heard stories of young women sold into human trafficking. I heard stories of ranchers telling me, American citizens telling me that they felt abandoned by their own government. Abandoned. Americans saying that. That is not the America that I know. And I know that it's not the America that I love, where we put the cartel above the people of this country. That's not the America I know. And we deserve better. Because a nation without borders is not a nation at all. And as previous speakers have said, this isn't a partisan issue. We have to ensure that our national security remains intact, that the security of our border remains intact, because it will define this country for generations. It's why I'm here. I'm 20 years old and I care about this issue because I realize that this just isn't a border issue. This isn't just an economy issue. This isn't just a public safety issue. But this is an issue that will dictate the identity of America for generations to come. And my generation has a stake in the fight, and we're not backing down, and we're not giving in. We're not giving in. No. One thing I love about the great state of Texas, when I was talking to those ranchers, none of them ever told me that they were ready to pack up their bags and leave. They never told me that they were gonna give up their land to the cartel. They were never gonna back down and fight, even though Secretary Mayorkas may not have their back. They don't need him. This is Texas. This is Texas. And this is the United States of America, where we don't back down in the face of our enemies, but we stare them down and we fight back, and our border remains a part of that story. This is our country. This is our country. And we are not going to give it up without a fight. You know, guys, I'm from Georgia. Went to school at Alabama, live in LA now. Roll Tide. But what I realize is that every single state in this country is now a border state. Every single town in this country is now a border town, a border community. This is a fight that you cannot run away from. The fentanyl, you cannot outrun it. The crime, you cannot outrun it. This is a fight that should unite us all as Americans. It all requires our voice. And we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Because the people on our border may feel abandoned by their government, but they're not abandoned by us. They're not abandoned by us. Because this may be the first of many to come, but we will lift our voices and we will talk about their struggles. We will talk about the way of life that they can't evade. When I left the border last week, I went back home to LA, so it's not much better, but I still got to go back home. They don't get to run away. They live this life every single day, and they deserve to know that we have their back. And this isn't just an issue of today, but it's something we're gonna talk about tomorrow, we're gonna talk about it next week, and we're gonna talk about it to the people in that dome. Take action. And guys, I am tired of the lip service from politicians. I am tired of career politicians telling us that this is too difficult of an issue. I'm tired of folks on the left trying to gaslight us into believing that what is happening on our border is okay, or it's just make-believe. They know it's not true. I know it's not true. We all know it is not true. So we have to deal with reality that we have to secure this border today. And when they say that it's too hard to secure our border, we should tell them to find a way. When they say that we have to grow complacent with this, that we have to accept it as the new normal, I don't accept that as a reality of the world in which we have to live. This is the United States of America, the greatest nation in the world, but it's not great by accident. It's gonna take the work from each and every one of us to do it, to deliver results on this issue. And guys, I love America so much that, well, I think it's worth fighting for. I think it's worth fighting for. And guys, this is just the first step. We're gonna be vocal, we're gonna rally, but we're not gonna stop until we secure that border. God bless you guys, God bless Texas, and God bless the great state. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the Texas Gulf Coast War on Fentanyl, Sarah Chittum.
Hi, my name is Sarah Chittum, and I created Texas Gulf Coast War on Fentanyl after losing my 21-year-old son to fentanyl poisoning on November the 17th, 2021. I also moderate for the nationwide group Lost Voices of Fentanyl, and I have recently begun to collaborate with Miss Stephanie Turner of Texas Against Fentanyl to get education that she's brought into our local schools. As a mom who lost her only biological son, I often wondered, what is my purpose now? Am I no longer a mother? And as I begun to talk to other mothers and fathers who had also lost their children, I realized we don't have a local group for bereavement or fentanyl education purposes, and that's why I created the group. When Seth was growing up, he faced lots of adversity. He had an absent father because of a substance abuse disorder and was not in his life, and he also was sexually abused at a young age. I took him to lots of counseling, but he really struggled to find his place in this world. He was in and out of trouble quite a bit, and I was the epitome of a tough love mother. I did everything that I thought was by the book. I never enabled him. I monitored his social media, his movies, his music. I did everything I knew to do, and Seth did not like that at all. So at about age 19, he ended up getting kicked out of my home. He went to live with a childhood friend, and during that time, a home invasion occurred. The people that broke into the home did not realize that my son was home, and the man put my son in a headlock and told the girlfriend to shoot him. The girlfriend opened fire on my son and emptied her entire clip into him. My son had to spend over a month in ICU during COVID where he could have no visitors, meaning during the most painful, shattered time in his life, I couldn't be there. He had to learn to eat again, to walk again, a lot of different things with no physical support there. And when he got out of the hospital, he feared. He feared for his life. Seth had never received justice for being shot, and he feared that the couple would come after him to finish the job. He also feared eating. Everything he ate hurt. He ate a lot of baby food. He drank a lot of Boost. He had a lot of stomach pain all of the time, and he ended up with another bowel obstruction. He ended up in the hospital again with another major surgery. The worst, though, were the night terrors. My son woke up every single night with a night terror. It was so bad that it sweated the bed down, and he was sweated down, and everything had to be changed, and he really just lost all zeal for living. He didn't want to live like he was anymore, so he started self-medicating. He started smoking marijuana, but then he had to be drug tested, and if you don't know this, marijuana takes about 21 days to leave the body, and pills only take about 3. So the night he died, he was going to a new girl's house to spend the night, and I'm sure he didn't want to have a night terror in her home. That's embarrassing, to wake up in someone else's bed sweated down. I'm sure he wanted just a little bit of mental relief, so he bought a pill from somebody he called family. That means to me that he trusted this guy. Unfortunately, that pill contained a lethal dose of illicit fentanyl, and it took my son's life. Had the girl that was with him known what poisoning looks like, or known what overdosing on something looks like, then she could have saved his life, but she didn't. None of us knew about illicit fentanyl. Pills are very normalized today. If you have a headache, what do? You go to the medicine cabinet to get a pill. If the doctor tells you you're diabetic, you don't go out and exercise and eat right, you take a pill. So to most of our kids out there today, pills are not illegal, they're not bad, they're normal. You got a problem, you take a pill. Unfortunately, the pill that my son chose to take took his life. If you ask me, I agree that this needs to be declared a weapon of mass destruction. This is killing off our next military age. Who's gonna be our military if we don't have military-aged kids here? Parents like myself are doing all we can to educate people on illicit fentanyl. But where's our COVID-like response? Within 3 months of COVID, we knew, wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance. The CDC's put out not one public service announcement for fentanyl. Why? We have to wonder why. I'm gonna continue to do my part. I'm gonna make sure that my son did not die in vain. But my prayer is that we can get our White House on board, because this has been going on for longer than 8 deadly years. Why are we not all aware of fentanyl? Why was I not aware of fentanyl? Why was my son not aware of it? Why hasn't the White House done something yet? My son should still be here. I shouldn't have to be up here telling you all his story. But because we were unaware of it, this is me, and this is me telling his story to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so. Thank you so much.
Unmute. Voice you got. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the U.S. Representative for Texas 21st Congressional District, Congressman Chip Roy.
Well, good afternoon, Texas. It is great to be back. I flew back here from Washington, D.C. this morning. We managed to get a debt ceiling bill through to stick it to the Democrats, try to get the job done for you guys. About 10 days ago, we passed a border security bill through the Judiciary Committee despite the opposition of Democrats and maybe a handful of Republicans, and we got it through, ready to get through the House floor. Let me ask you a question. Are you guys tired of Texas being attacked? Are you tired of Texas being taken for granted by the rest of this country? Are you tired of your own children, your own community dying from fentanyl driven by cartels? Are you tired of empowering China and pretending that they're not killing our own in our own communities? Well, so am I. And I'm so proud that so many of you came out here today to show the world, to show this country, to show this state that Texans aren't going to sit by and allow this to continue to happen. How many more? That's the question, and it's the right question to ask. I'm sick and tired of having to talk to moms like Sarah and like the other moms that I see out here that I've grieved with. Virginia Krieger, whose daughter was lost to fentanyl. The hundreds of you who are connected to people who lost their children and their loved ones to fentanyl. The 6 children who have died in Hays County, where I live, just outside of Austin, just in the last 6 months from fentanyl. The 9 or 10 that don't make the news that had to be revived with Narcan. How many more? How many more are we going to lose before we do something here in this state or in our national capital? How many more migrants themselves have to die while people pretend that it is compassionate to have open borders? I know Texans. I know you all. And you all want a secure border because it's hurting us, and it's hurting our families, and it's hurting our ranches, and it's hurting our communities. But you're also Christians and compassionate Texans, and you don't want to see another dead migrant die in a tractor trailer like the 53 who died in the Texas heat in San Antonio last summer, or the 856 who died along the Rio Grande and along the southwest border last year. The thousands that are in the sex trafficking trade as we speak in the supposedly strongest and most powerful nation in the history of the world. While we're sitting here right now, some little girl is in the back of a car on I-35 getting taken God knows where. How long? How many more? How many more politicians are you going to listen to say they're going to secure the border and then they don't do a damn thing to do it? I will tell you that we're doing everything we can in Washington against the recalcitrant Senate and President. You've got a House of Representatives led, by the way, by the House Freedom Caucus and the 20 who stood for you in January. That we're standing up for you. And as I said, we passed a good bill 10 days ago, and we're going to get that bill across the finish line, and it does the job. It's the strongest border security bill that I've seen move off of the House floor. It does the job. But you know what we're going to run into in the Senate, and you know what we're going to run into at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. So we've got two things we've got to do. Keep the heat up in Washington, yes. But we got to do something about it in Texas. I want to thank my friend Matt Schaefer for leading on legislation to try to push the legislature to act. And I do want to take a second. I want to thank every one of the law enforcement officers, DPS, all of the great guys that are out there on the line, out there defending us. I'm telling you, they're down there doing the Lord's work. Border Patrol can't do it. They're overwhelmed. They're processing. This administration doesn't care. And DPS is down there filling the breach. And no, we don't have the policies in place yet that I think all of us want to say that this state is going to send a loud message that under the Constitution of the United States, we get to decide how to secure Texas. We get to decide how to secure the border. But I don't want to lose sight for a minute what those brave men and women are doing in DPS going down and secure us. For another round of applause, because they're doing the Lord's work. I go to the border as often as I can, usually about every other month. I think I was last down there in February. I think I'm due for another trip. But every time I go down, it's the same old thing. And it's been the same old thing now for as long as I can remember. The only change at any point along that trip was when President Donald Trump stopped the flow by changing the policies that Mark Morgan just told you about. Those are the policies that this country must adopt. We are a compassionate country, but we are a sovereign country. We should export the rule of law rather than importing fentanyl and lawlessness and dangerous cartels. That's our duty as Texans. That's our duty as Americans. The thing that I will ask of each and every one of you is to engage in this legislature for the remainder of this session. Engage in this legislature with your state rep and your state senator and the statewide elected leadership. Look, they want to protect Texas, but they got to know that you all are behind them, and they got to be encouraged every single day through the end of this session, because there's a lot of people who want to say no, who have excuses for why we shouldn't do what we know we need to do as Texans. There's always a lot of talk every year on March 2nd. There's always a lot of talk about Texas independence and a lot of talk about the Alamo. We walk around San Antonio, we pat ourselves on the back about how great Texas is. Well, are we going to show it again? When those when those men stood on the wall and we praise what they did for us, and we remember it and we pass it down to our kids and grandkids, or at least we do. Our schools don't always do it. But we know that's what we should do. But you got to ask yourself why. When you guys or your grandparents, your grandfathers, your great-grandfathers stormed the beach at Normandy, when they were sitting in a foxhole in Bastogne, freezing, like when they were in the Pacific, fighting Japan, going all the way back to the Alamo, all of those sacrifices that we regale every Memorial Day, every Veterans Day, every Texas Independence Day, it's got to be something more than words. People say, Chip, what are you doing out there when you guys were down there? And oh my God, they were so mean to you on Fox News and the tweets, and they were, good grief. That's not bullets flying at you at Normandy. It's just words. If they're going to get mad at you at your church group or the school board or in your local community because you dare stand up, that's a small price. Speak up. You have my commitment as a member of the United States Congress in the Texas delegation from right here in Central Texas. You have my commitment to continue to fight to secure the border of the United States. And whoever shouts things like prove it, let me Google that for you. I have stood up and I'll continue to stand up as I did last week to fight strong legislation and get it passed. When everybody else is watching, we passed a bill. And we're going to pass that through the House, and we're going to send it to the Senate, and we're going to keep fighting. The same way the 20 sat on the floor of the House and stared down the establishment in Washington, we're going to stare them down on the border, and we're going to stare them down on the spending. You guys didn't elect me. Those of you who are from the Texas 21st District and the other Republicans, you didn't send us up there for second place. Our job is to go up there and fight for Texas. Our job is to go up there and represent you. We are a sovereign state in a sovereign nation, and our job is to defend the border of the United States. And yes, we need to do that in Washington. But the strongest message that you all can send is if this body, these bodies, send a loud message to the world that Texas is not going to put up with this for another day. Now, I'm just the warm-up act to Laura Logan. That's what you guys are actually here for. So, I also know never to overstay your welcome. But I do just want to say this. This is the greatest state in the greatest country in the history of the world. But there are some folks out there that are wondering whether we've lost our mojo a little bit in Texas. And I think it's about time that we demonstrate to the world that Texas is as strong as it's ever been, and that we're going to stand up for the Texas that we knew, that we inherited from our parents and grandparents, and that we're going to pass down to our kids and grandkids. We're going to be sovereign. We're going to be free. We're going to be strong. We're going to promote and protect parents. We're going to stop what's happening with the cartels. We're going to secure our borders, stop the fentanyl, stand by law enforcement instead of the lawless taking over our streets. We're going to cut property taxes. We're going to make sure that parents have a voice in their schools. I'm a Texan. And when somebody here tells me to stay in my lane, I'm in my lane. I'm a Texan. So thank you all for coming out here today. Thank you to Mark Meckler and all the great people who put this up. Thank you to the great patriots like Mark Morgan. We can't secure this border without the help of great people like Mark Morgan, friends like George Rodriguez, all of the people that tell the truth about the border every day. Stay on top of it, spread the word, keep standing up for Texas, and then we'll be able to say that we passed down the greatest state in the greatest country in the history of the world to our kids and grandkids. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emmy Award-winning journalist and former foreign war correspondent for CBS News and 60 Minutes, Laura Logan.
Hey everybody, I know it's getting hot and you've been here all day, so I'm gonna make it quick by my standards. I know Chip Roy's a smart man because he was buttering me up before I came out here so I wouldn't say anything about him. That's a smart politician. Okay, so I'm an honorary Texan and I'm a proud American, but we have a problem. Because I don't understand, if Texas is so great, why we are where we are. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I gotta call it like it is. We shouldn't be in this position, okay? How many Texans who went to the Capitol on January 6th to exercise their First Amendment rights are sitting in prison without trial? How many veterans? How many law enforcement? What are they doing in this Capitol every day? Because I know what's creeping into our schools, it's called pornography. I know what's creeping into our schools, it's called critical race theory under a new name, DEI or some other nonsense, right? Teaching our children to separate according to the color of their skin. I don't know about you, but Nelson Mandela was one of my mentors, and he didn't teach people to judge each other by the color of their skin. He said that we should do the opposite of that. And that's what I carry in my heart every single day. I was born with that in my heart, to be honest with you. I never liked it. If I saw somebody being treated badly, it was a pain. I felt that physical pain. And that's how I feel today, knowing that Texas is the #1 place in the nation for the rape of children for money. That's a reality. So there's been people who've talked a little bit about what happens. But I can tell you there are police officers and Border Patrol agents and lawyers, attorneys, judges, child protection services, family court, counter-trafficking organizations. You know what a lot of these people are doing? They're trafficking kids. They're guilty. When I started working in this area, I was told by many people, you know, a lot of the organizations that say they're counter-trafficking are trafficking kids, right? So this is the harsh reality of why we're here today. How many people are here? There should be 10,000 people here today. Where are they? Where are they? You know where they are? In the great state of Texas, Republican stronghold. They're hiding. Yeah, they're hiding behind their businesses and their family well-being, and they're this and they're that. Nobody wants to be canceled. Nobody wants to be an outlier. Nobody wants to pay a price. Nobody wants to sacrifice. They want to stand on the side of the river, watching people drown and say, wow, I hope someone saves them. Because I don't want to risk anything. I don't want to pay any price. I somehow expect this to be fixed. I expect Jason Jones to fix it. I expect Chip Roy to fix it. I expect Craig Sawyer to fix it. I expect the unnamed Border Patrol agents and law enforcement officers. I expect people inside the FBI to hold the line, even when every single day they're being hunted down and thrown out if they don't fall in line. And where are you? Where are we? Where am I? Where are the journalists? We know where they are. They're in the tank, right? They're in the tank supporting a false narrative, one false narrative after another. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I don't want you to walk away hating me. I don't, I'm used to that, so I kind of don't mind. But my job, what I was born for, what I was put here for, was to tell the truth. That was my job. It wasn't to win a popularity contest. It was not. There was a young man here today from Prager University. I sure hope one day that man is leading this country. Yeah, that's a great man, 20 years old, speaking like that. Is that your dad next to you? No? You should be proud. Okay, I say this, I'm not up here to make grand statements about anything. Let me tell you some simple realities. We talk about the Mexican cartels. They are now the shadow government of Mexico. Why are they a shadow government? It's very simple. They don't want to worry about Social Security, education, this kind of stuff. No, it's much easier for the cartels to let everybody think that there's an actual government running Mexico. There is not. Okay, number one. Number two, where does the jurisdiction of the United States law enforcement end, ladies and gentlemen? Where does it end? Oh, that's right, at the Rio Grande. It ends at the borders of the United States. So when you go into Mexico, or you go into Honduras, or you go anywhere to try to take action against the cartels, you go at the pleasure of the host nation. And if they don't want you there, you don't go. Law enforcement is a failed model for countering the most powerful transnational criminal organizations on the face of the earth. It is a failed model. That doesn't mean that every agent is a failure. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean we've never had a victory. It doesn't mean that they aren't doing their best. It means that the model has failed. And the definition of continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, as we all know. So it is insane to use that as your answer to what we're doing today. Number three, the government of Mexico is run by the cartels that you're supposed to be fighting. Give me a break, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even need to spend 3 seconds on that. It's self-explanatory. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen, okay? Number four, we're burying children in mass graves in southern Texas. We don't know who they are. We don't know how they died. I know there's not a single person here who's proud of that. If you want to be proud of your state and you want to be proud of your country, you got to do something about that. So I am part of a group with General Flynn and his sister Mary, and with Jaco Boyens, who's done who's done a lot to counter child trafficking, and some other people you've never heard about. And we are going to build a monument to all the lost children, the children who've gone missing, the children who've been murdered, the children who've been raped every day till they die, the children who've died on camera, the children who've been sacrificed for child pornography, the children who've been sacrificed in satanic rituals. You know what I'm talking about. There are people here who know. Take Saul Alinsky's handbook and open it up. There's a dedication to Lucifer in the front. You can say I'm crazy. I don't care. I'm not crazy. I couldn't care less. Saul Alinsky and the Rules for Radicals, one of the great leaders of the Marxist movement, paid homage to Satan. They don't believe in God. I believe in God. I do. I believe in God, and I know God will prevail. But I am not okay. I am not okay with knowing that tonight when I go to bed and tomorrow morning when I wake up, there's another child that died in the night in the most horrific way possible. The most horrific way possible. There's an entire city in Mexico, Tenancingo, that is built on generations of child rape. And we have a special unit of the Department of Homeland Security called the Tenancingo Unit, based in New York, set up just for that city. That's how long we have known. That's how long we have done nothing. We have done nothing, and it's not okay. And so we say nothing as our schools go digital. We go into a digital world. You know, everything of it digital, it comes down to this one thing. We don't control it. Somebody else does. Somebody else can decide whether you use your phone, use your Wi-Fi, drive your car. I mean, ultimately, they can turn your car off if you have GPS. And, you know, I mean, think of what you're giving up. Think of what you're giving up. There's a lot of people today talked about left and right. This isn't about left and right, do this together. That's right, it's not about left and right. And if you don't know about 5th generation warfare and 6th generation warfare and 7th generation warfare, then you have no idea where we're going. And you are walking like a lamb to the slaughter with your eyes closed. You are like those people that marched to Auschwitz and other places. That's what you are like. That's what we're doing. We're sitting literally at the gates of Auschwitz and we're arguing about whether it's climate change or is that really the the ashes of human beings rising into the air. That's the ashes of this country. That's the ashes of sovereignty, individual sovereignty, national sovereignty. This is how simple it is. This is how simple it is. Sir, when you say Open Society Foundation or open borders, what does that mean? Oh, when you say that blood is the secret to anti-aging, how much blood, sir? Does it matter how young? I mean, if you're 15 or 5 months old or 5 days old, does it change the potency of that anti-aging component? Where do you get that blood, sir? Okay, so I'm the crazy one for talking about it, but read about it in Politico or USA Today or NBC News. You can find many articles telling you that blood is the secret to aging. But nobody asked the simple follow-up question. That's why at 60 Minutes, they called me the follow-up honey badger, because apparently I would never let go until I got an answer. It starts there. It starts with never letting go until you get a real answer. And the answers are staring you in the face. 5th generation warfare is a war of narratives, but by the time you get through 6th and 7th, you're fighting something that isn't even present around us today. You're fighting machines and artificial intelligence, and you're fighting a digital version of you. And if you don't want to go there, you don't have to go there. I hear people say to me, progress is inevitable. You can't stop technology. Well, okay, well then you can't stop the end of humanity. If you don't want your children to live as slaves, then that's your choice. Because right now, you can still do something about it. And that open border is right at the heart and soul and center of all of these policies. Years ago, I heard a spokesperson for Bernie Sanders say on national television, Chris Matthews at MSNBC made the mistake of saying that Bernie Sanders reminded him of at one point of, the Nazis. And that something he was doing, was reminiscent of Nazi tactics. Oh boy, not allowed to say that, right? That one cut too close to home. Because really, there's no difference between the Nazis and the communists and the fascists. They're all fascists. None of them believe in freedom, and none of them believe in God, and that's all you got to know. So you know what he said when he went out, making sure that Chris Matthews was targeted and lost his job? He said the days of milk white America are over, and the future of this country is diverse. And that's what every American needs to know. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Why does he say that? And when he says days are over, how many days exactly? And what does that look like? So I'm a journalist. Well, I spent a long time trying to find the population demographics of America because they don't want you to know that more than 75% of this country is still white. So my question is not, I don't like to deal in issues of race, but I want to know what it is exactly you mean. Well, what it is exactly you mean is that we're going to flood the borders of the United States with so many people from so many other places that you will no longer recognize this country. They want you to think it's about race. It's not really about race. It's diluting the pool of people that believe in what this country represents. Diluting the pool of patriots. Getting rid of people who know what the red, white, and blue stands for, or who remember the Alamo. That's what it's about. Because if you dilute the pool of patriots, then step by step, you can go to regional government, and from regional government, you can go to global government. And your individual sovereignty and your national sovereignty are indistinct, in a sense. There's a gentleman here, he's right over there, his name is Glenn Macco. He's poured everything that he owns, everything that he is. I'm not supposed to say this, but sometimes he has to hide from his wife and children because they supported the vaccines and the mandates and he didn't. He paid a personal price in his home, and he's here if you want to talk to him. He's trying to take down Pfizer, and he can tell you why it's possible. That's what I mean about sacrificing everything. That's what I mean about doing something. You have an opportunity. It's not a burden. It is not a burden. It's not something to be feared. It's something to get down on your knees and be grateful for, because your life will mean more than anyone else's. How many of you here have had children? You know, you're looking at, let's face it, I'm 52. I'm in the last half. I know it. I'm in the last half of my life. I'm going to make it count. That's a freedom. I'm not afraid to die. Dying is part of living. We are born and we die. These people don't want to die. They tell you aging, death, these things are a thing of the past. Human beings don't ever have to live like that again. Well, why would you want to live forever? It's like power. I never wanted it, as I'm not interested in it. Holds nothing for me. I don't care about power or everlasting life. I care about what I do now. I care about the fact that Texas is the #1 state in the nation for sex trafficking. #1 state in the nation for sex trafficking. That's not something to hold your head about. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are many things that can be done. You listen to a lot of people today. I've been talking for too long already, but you listen to a lot of people that told you about things that can be done. And there's one thing I want you to understand. Every little thing fits into a bigger picture, as you all know. So here's a piece of the puzzle. Yes, the Mexican cartels are the real enemy, but who are their allies? Who are their allies? For decades, the Chinese Communist Party has had people living in countries like Mexico. The Chinese Communist Party is all over Latin America. They've married into the cartels. Where did fentanyl come from, ladies and gentlemen? Where did China get it from? They got it from us. That's where they got it from. The United States of America. They got it from the Bush administration. They got it from the Biden administration. They got it from every single administration that has been in power and has enabled and facilitated the movement of all of our manufacturing to China, and who has not stood up and been honest about what is happening. It is a national security issue when you allow one country to have complete control over the manufacturing of every single pharmaceutical your population needs to survive. And when that was exposed during COVID, what did they do about it? Nothing. Where did they find out how to make fentanyl? From the American pharmaceutical companies that outsourced manufacturing to China, who allowed the Chinese Communist Party to put its spies in their companies, who allowed them to steal everything, and then stood by and did nothing while they sent it as a mail-order drug, a few grains at a time. And once Americans were addicted, and Donald Trump went to Davos and said to Xi Jinping, "You got to ban fentanyl?" Oh, he said, "With pleasure." You know why? Because Chinese pharmacists were already in Sinaloa in the mountains teaching the Mexican cartels how to make it, because China doesn't care about the money. So what do they care about? They care about unrestricted drug warfare. There's all kinds of unrestricted warfare. There's unrestricted immigration warfare, by the way. There's unrestricted drug warfare. How did the Chinese lose to the British in the Opium Wars? Because Britain bought a different form of opium from India. They learned more than 100 years ago about the cost of not paying attention to drug warfare. People who are addicted to drugs don't pay taxes. They don't join the military. They don't raise stable families. They don't go to work every Monday morning. They don't. Their lives are a mess. And it's a roll of the dice if their kids make it out. That's not a stable foundation for a country. This country is already at war. And I would put to you that all these people yelling from the rooftops about the Chinese invading, who are the allies of the Chinese? Not just Democrats. There are Republicans and Democrats all over our government who are in bed with the Chinese. Some of them are taking money. Some of them get other things. Some of them go on business trips and have sex with little boys, and they get caught, and they don't want to admit it. Ask General Flynn. When he was appointed by Trump as National Security Advisor, he said there were so many thousands of members of the national security state that all forms of counterintelligence and security had gone out of the window. Literally out of the window. The Chinese Communist Party has been infiltrating people into our colleges for years. The Obama administration extended their visas. Secretary Kerry, thank you very much. Our universities are completely bored out. They're teaching studies according that the Chinese Communist Party want. They're used to fat salaries and luxurious campuses that could never be sustained without the money from foreign entities. And then they send their spies out into American families, American towns, American businesses. This country is so infiltrated that when the DEA launched Operation Python years ago against Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion, CJNG, and arrested more than 700 members of that cartel on U.S. soil and seized billions of dollars, guess what it did to the operations of CJNG according to the DEA? Nothing. They didn't miss a step. The cartels have gone into towns and cities across America, bought up property. So have the Chinese. They work hand in hand. And they are in bed with people within this government. So I don't buy the saber rattling. Doesn't mean the threat isn't real. But look beyond the surface to what you're really looking at. And you should know, if you have children and if you have grandchildren, they are being indoctrinated in the schools in Texas, in small towns and big cities. It is happening all over this state. And people who are at Moms for Liberty and Moms for America, they're branded as extremists. Thank you. Thank you. Branded as extremists, targeted as terrorists. That's actually happening on our watch. You know, anybody here from Gillespie County, vote for Dennis McCandless, because he's the only guy that doesn't brand Moms for Liberty as an extremist organization. That's in a conservative town, in a conservative part in the heart of the hill country of Texas. I have moms coming to me from places, Leandra and New Braunfels and all over. Their kids are being taught to be furries in the classroom. So it's not a time for celebrating. Time is short. If you ask General Flynn, he'll tell you we have 18 months or less. But I will end on this note. When 60 Minutes has to do a puff piece on Ray Epps pretending he's not a federal informant, most likely, I can't confirm that, so for the lawyers, I don't know for sure, but I know what journalism is, and that wasn't it. That's a sign of desperation, ladies and gentlemen. It's a sign that they're losing control of the narratives. And when Mike Morrell, the former deputy director of the CIA, has to admit under oath to the Judiciary Committee that he lied about Hunter Biden's laptop, that it was orchestrated by the Biden campaign, and that his motive was to sway the election so Biden could win, and I couldn't care, you could replace Biden's name with anyone else's. When you admit to doing that, you're admitting to guilt, you're admitting to conspiracy, you're laying out your intent, and somebody's got you by the balls. That's what that means. Find a target, ladies and gentlemen, hold on for dear life, and don't stop, because we have everything to lose. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the president of Convention Estates, Mark Meckler.
It's not fair when you have to follow Laura Logan, right? And Chip Roy. Look, you've heard a lot today. Well, maybe things you didn't know, maybe things that make you feel uncomfortable, maybe pictures you wish you had never seen. And what I hope that you will carry those things with you. We're doing what we're doing because we don't know what else to do. You're out here today because you know they haven't been doing the things they're supposed to do. You're out here today because you know that Congress at large, other than folks like Chip Roy, aren't doing the things that they're supposed to do. And so that means we're gonna have to do it. And we're gonna have to do it for ourselves. We're gonna have to do it for our kids and our grandkids, but we're also gonna have to do it for those who have come before us. You know, we've seen folks up here today from Voices of Fentanyl, moms who've lost their kids, husbands who've lost wives, wives who've lost husbands, sisters, daughters, grandkids, no longer with us. They've fallen in the fight. In the audience today, we have folks from Remembrance Project. Remembrance Project representing those who have fallen to illegal aliens, people should have never been in our country, who took innocent lives from American citizens. We're here for them. We're here for the law enforcement officers, for DPS, for Border Patrol, for folks who've given their all to fight the scourge of drugs, to fight the scourge of illegal aliens, to fight the scourge of sex trafficking and slavery in America. And so I would ask now that we just bow our heads for 30 seconds and remember those folks that we have already lost and just sit in silence. That silence might be uncomfortable for you. To sit in silence at a public gathering like that, it's not easy. But imagine the pain if you were one of those people that lost a loved one. It's a lot more than uncomfortable. And that means that if we actually care about that, if we actually believe in the things that we've said here today, if we actually respect the heroes that have been willing to walk across this stage, people who put their lives on the line, people like Laura Logan that's been all around the world in combat zones to tell you the truth, people like Mark Morgan that are willing to put their reputations on the line, people like Chip Roy that are willing to go out there and fight for us in the swamp of Washington, D.C. If you respect those people, if you honor those people, then it means that you personally will engage in the fight. It's not an easy fight. The fight that we begin today, where we join with people who've been in that fight for a decade or more, Dr. Vickers, who've been in that fight for 16 years. If we're going to stand with those people, and we're going to be worthy of standing with those people, then we have to commit. John Quincy Adams, you know that name, President of the United States of America, son of John Adams. After he was president, he went and served in the United States Congress. Most people don't know that story. Imagine that. President of the United States of America. And then he leaves office, and rather than retiring, he goes to serve as a backbencher in Congress. And he does it for one reason only. Because in that time, slavery was all over America. It dominated the South. And he found it abhorrent. And it wasn't a time in our history when people were likely to get rid of slavery, but he went to Congress and he became known as the hellhound of abolition. He didn't want to talk about anything else in Congress. In fact, they passed the John Quincy Adams Censure Act so that if he spoke about abolition anymore, they would censure him. So he spoke about abolition so that he could speak about abolition at his 5-day censure trial. Got to admire a man like that. 17 years he served in the Congress of the United States of America. 17 years advocating for that which he believed was the absolute right thing, to remove that stain, the stain of slavery from America. 17 years he labored in vain. He died on the floor of the House of Representatives. If you go there today, you can find a plaque where he fell. It's actually now in Statuary Hall. And he was removed from the floor, actually died in what's now the women's cloakroom. And when he died, slavery still existed in the United States. Before he died, he was approached by a reporter. And the reporter asked him a question. He said, "You know, Mr. Adams, you're very frustrating to all of us. To journalists because you never say anything new or interesting. To your colleagues because everybody knows we're not going to get abolition. Not now, maybe not ever in this country. That's all you want to talk about. Why do you keep doing it?" And Adams responded, "Duty is ours, results belong to God." What does that mean to actually live your duty? It meant to Adams that he gave up everything, that he went to Congress, that he lived his life, that he lived and died fighting for abolition. And it didn't matter whether he won or not, because he knew that he was living out his duty. That's what he did. You know, after he died, he had a very big effect on somebody that he mentored. There was a young man in Congress that was there in his last term. It was his first term. He was enamored with the fact that the great John Quincy Adams was in Congress, and so he approached him and was mentored by him. And he spent all the time with him he could. They became very close friends. In fact, they were so close that when Adams died, this young congressman was given the honor of being one of the 6 pallbearers at John Quincy Adams' funeral. After Adams died and after that young congressman's term was up, he was recalled. He was called home. Back then, the parties decided who ran. And he was called home and he didn't run again. But later, he ran for office again, and he lost. He ran for office a second time, engaged in a series of very public debates, and he lost. And the third time he ran for office, he won. And we know him as the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln, mentored by John Quincy Adams, a man who was simply doing his duty. We don't know what results we get when we do our duty. Likely nothing. In our lifetimes, doing our duty means the thing that we do when nobody else is watching because it's the right thing to do. Duty is the thing that we do when we know it won't benefit us, but we do it anyway because we know it's the right thing to do. Duty is the thing that we do when we pay a price for doing it and we really don't want to do it, but we do it anyway because we know it's the right thing to do. And unfortunately, duty is lost on this country today. The men and women in our armed forces, law enforcement officers, first responders, those are people who rush into the sound of gunfire, rush into the fire, rush in when there's been an accident. Those people understand duty, but for most, for our culture, duty is lost. And if we're gonna save this country, we have to recover the concept of duty. In the Declaration of Independence, it says that we pledged to each other, we pledged our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I could pull out any one of those phrases and you would all remember the other phrases. We have those memorized. They're written on our hearts as United States citizens, as Americans. Lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. But what did they pledge them to? This is really an interesting thing. I discovered this literally. I have the Declaration of Independence on the wall of my office, hand calligraphied, a gift from a good friend in Midland, Texas. And I was reading it one day, and I realized that I didn't know what I had just read. I'd never seen it before. Did they pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to God? That would have been a good pledge. Lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the country? Nope, not that either. Lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the flag of the nascent country? No. To the great General Washington, the general, the indispensable man, the general of the Continental Army? No, not to him either. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to each other. To each other. I think that's an extraordinary moment in American history. They understood what Ben Franklin would later say, which is, we have to hang together, or most assuredly, we shall hang separately. We live in such a moment right now. There are Americans sitting in prison for things that are not crimes because they were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. There are people being persecuted by the federal government, by the IRS, by the DOJ, by the FBI. The FBI just admitted that they don't know how many people have the ability and the right to surveil you right now. That kind of persecution exists. And so we damn well better pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor to each other, or we're going to lose this country. I want you to know exactly what I mean when I say that, and I know what I can speak for every speaker who stepped up here today. These are men and women that are willing to do what they do despite the risks, despite the odds, despite the financial punishment, despite the surveillance, despite the risk of being thrown in jail, because they have pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, as I do, to you. And when I say to you, I want you to understand exactly what I mean. I don't mean to you in some big general sense that doesn't actually mean anything. What I mean is to you, and to you, and to you, to everybody here, because we're all in this together, and we are either going to save this republic, we're going to cheat history if we stand together, if we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor together, or we are going to lose this republic. So I'm asking you a few things when you leave here. When you drive home today, when you're in the quiet of your own car, when you're looking at yourself in the mirror tonight, as you're brushing your teeth and getting ready for bed, I'm asking you to ask yourself if you actually are willing to pledge your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor to your fellow patriots. And if you are, I'm asking you to do it out loud. I'm asking you to do it out loud right now. Do you pledge your lives, your fortunes, and your sacred honor? If you do, I can promise you the journey will be difficult, you will be tested, you will be pushed, and you will be persecuted, and you will take joy in that persecution. Now, when we leave here today, there's something very important we have to do, because this rally is not about gathering and feeling good. This rally is not about listening to a bunch of inspiring people and going home and telling your family, man, I was sure inspired. This rally is about doing something. And here's what I need you to do. In this building, in this coming week, they will be considering legislation that will put us on a path. It's not the silver bullet, but it will put us on a path to securing our border. Do you want them to secure our border? You're going to have to tell them to secure our border, because there are a lot of people in that building that are going to need the spine that only you can do it. Only you can do it. HB 20 came out of committee this week. HB 20 declares an invasion and creates a border protection unit under the control of Governor Abbott. Do you want that border protection unit? Then here's what you have to do. You have to make the phone call. You have to call your state rep. You have to call your senator. You have to call your governor. And when I say you have to call them, I mean pick up the phone and make the phone calls. Are you guys willing to do that? And if you do it, I can promise you, you're not enough. You're not enough. We're the remnant. But you have to go home and you have to tell your wife or your husband or your cousin or your kids or your friends at church, or the people at work, or people you don't even know on the street, call this damn legislature and get them to pass HB 20. Are you with me? I'm counting on you. Tell them that we want them to declare an invasion. Is it an invasion? Hell yes, it's an invasion. Tell them that you want them to declare that those cartels are international terrorist organizations. Are they terrorist organizations? You tell them that you want them to seize the assets of those organizations. Do we want them to take those organizations down? Yes. So you have to tell them that. See, they only do the things that you tell them to do. They're your employees. They work for you. You pay their salaries. You elected them, and if they don't do the things that you tell them to do, then our job is to throw them out of office, right? Now, here's what I really want to do. What I really want to be doing is when this session is over, I want to be calling all of them. I want to be going on the radio. I want to be going on television, and I want to thank them for being heroes. Wouldn't we rather thank them for being heroes? But that's their choice. Their choice is to be the hero or the zero. And they're welcome to be either, and we're welcome to treat them accordingly, correct? So I'm going to close with this. Whatever happens from here is in your hands. What you do is in your hands. There are three things you can control. You can control who you trust. For me, that begins with Almighty God. That's where it starts for me. I hope it starts there for you. Number two, you can control your attitude about what happens. I can promise you one thing, bad things are going to happen to our country, to you, to all of us at some point. And the question is, what do we do when something bad happens? Do we stand? Do we get back up if we're knocked down? Do we continue to fight? That's up to you. Are you going to continue to fight? So we're going to stay in this fight. I don't want to hear anybody tell me that they're quitting. It's too hard. It's depressing. It's frustrating, because we're not going to stand for that, because we're warriors, right? The last thing we can control is what we do. What we do. And I can tell you what we do as Americans, and I can tell you what we do as Texans, is that we stand up. And no matter how many times we get knocked down, we stand up again. And no matter how many times we get knocked down, we come back to the fight. I can promise you this, for me, personally. I can say this for everybody who got up on this stage today, and I think I can say it for all of you. There is a time that will come when I will quit fighting. And that time is when that first shovel of dirt hits the top of my damn pine box. And until then, I will fight. God bless you. God bless the state of Texas. And God bless the United States of America.